following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. It's game time. This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Cats a winner last night, 81-67 over the West Virginia Mountaineers. Cats break a 4-game skid in Morgantown. They are now 12-3 and 2-0 in Big 12 play this season. But before you say something, Deej, by the way, welcome to the game. Mitch Fortner, Troy Coverdale, David G, and Travion Berkland with us on for an hour and a half. K-State women's basketball pregame starts at 5:30, tipping off at 6:02. I think it's 6:02 officially. The Cats taking on the Oklahoma Sooners in Bramlage. Ayoka Lee, 23 points away from 2,000 in her career. Last time she played against the Sooners in Bramlage, she scored 61. I can't wait to see what happens tonight. Live and in person. Deej, hours ago, you texted us saying you're going to probably be late, and you show up right as Travion plays the intro.
Perfect timing. As they say in the radio biz, I hit the post. You know what I'm saying?
You grew up playing sports. Mm-hmm. When you're on time, you're late.
You're late. If you're not 10 minutes early, you're late.
I mean, is there a coach out there that has never said that?
No.
Yeah.
There's never a coach who's been like, whenever. It's fine. Hey, meeting's at 4? You made it 3:59. Good for you, baby. Great job. No.
Another common thing I've seen with the coaches, like if you're on the road with a coach, the head coach is the last one on the bus. Mm-hmm. If you get on the bus after the head coach,
you're dead meat.
You're in trouble. Yeah. At the very least, the head coach is going to get up, talk to the bus, and make it a very loud and verbal warning.
Oh, yeah. I played high school ball under Butch Albright. Clyde Butch Albright. If anybody knows Butch Albright, no. He would walk the locker room and all that stuff and make sure everybody got themselves on the bus. And he was the last guy getting on. The last guy getting on. Even the bus driver would be like, get in there. Yes, sir. He was the last man standing. And if you came on after him, dead.
What was the big punishment when you played high school football? You're late to practice. You forget a piece of equipment. Maybe you had some penalties in the prior game. Like I remember ours at Clay Center, you had to run 40 40s. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the toughest thing in the world, but it was basically extra practice, extra conditioning.
So we gassers were a good punishment, and up downs. It was always up downs.
Oh, up. When we were doing two-a-days my sophomore year, I was late, and I accidentally overslept. And I had to drive 10, 15 minutes to practice and then get dressed and get up there. And I tried sneaking onto the practice field. Mm. Coach Lane catches me, starts yelling. Oh, makes everybody aware. And I kind of played it dumb. Like, Coach, what I told him was, Coach, I told you that I was going to be late to practice. And he kind of stopped and looked, and he made me do up downs.
Oh, yeah.
And I probably did 30. Mm-hmm. And they got right up in my grill and says, don't be late again. Mm-hmm. So, yes, sir.
Don't you ever try to lie about it either. And that's what Coach just loved. Coach loved being on top of somebody late. Trying to scamper on his practice field after warm-ups? What are you, crazy?
Got in my face, yelled at me. I thought it was in Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Gunnery Sergeant got after me.
Hey, Travion, you want to hit the breaking news button there?
Uh-oh.
Breaking news.
Chris Lowe at ESPN reporting that Alabama head coach Nick Saban has had a team meeting today to announce his retirement.
Whoa!
Wow. They're coming after Kleiman. You already know it, guys.
Oh, dear God.
This could be the fall of the SEC.
Someone was already joking Belichick.
Well, they are buddies, right?
So,
no, what they're going to do is get together what they're going to do is they're going to get Mac Brown to step down, and then Bill Snyder's going to come along as well. They're going to they're going to form the oldest coaching staff in America, and they're going to just dominate. They're going to go to Washington State.
Nick Saban, Pete Carroll, they're both 72.
Wow.
Because Pete Carroll also no longer head coach in Seattle.
And if you want to really get into the weird and the history, Belichick taking the Jets job for all of one day, returns to the Patriots after Big Bill Parcells stepped down as the Jets head coach. And it was Pete Carroll who then took the Jets job.
Wow. I didn't know he's got fired today? I had no idea.
Essentially pushed into
Paw Patrol.
Pushed upstairs.
He still has an office job, but he's no longer head coach.
Oh, my God.
Or maybe they'll just, I don't know, like maybe just Bill Snyder him. Like he can obviously have a say about, some, not obviously day-to-day or anything with the actual football program, but maybe some say Ring of Honor stuff. I don't know. Things like that. And also be an analyst. That will be Pete Carroll's job, and he'll make some decent bucks. Nick Saban is actually a month younger than Pete Carroll. With Pete Carroll, my lasting memory of his head coaching will not be the Seattle Seahawks. It'll be the Trojans.
Oh, forever.
Depending on your, however old you are, the generation you grew up, USC, you probably remember two things. O.J. Simpson or the Pete Carroll run where they won 6 BCS bowl games, won a national championship. Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush.
Asterisk.
Lost to K-State twice.
Asterisk. Reggie Bush. Asterisk.
Lost to K-State twice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Terrence Newman.
Guys, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. Oh, hold up a second.
You know what that means? AEW
Go ahead.
is in
Where do you think?
Kansas City tonight.
No.
It's in Pittsburgh tonight.
It is in Jacksonville tonight.
Oh, they need to.
Right after the Jaguars were eliminated from the playoffs.
They
and
need something to feel good about.
WWE trolls Tony Khan on Twitter.
Ooh. That's horrible timing. Man, that's bad timing. Right after the troll job, then they show up. Oh.
It's the 5th anniversary show for AEW. We're supposed to have Derek Young on right now. He's a little late getting to us. He's pretty busy right now, so I totally understand if he's a little late getting to us. But we can go ahead and just discuss what we were going to lead off with anyway. And that's the Cats beating the Mountaineers last night, 81-47. Troy, the game ended at like 8:10. Did you stay up for it?
No, I was in bed by 7:15 last night.
Good Lord.
Wow. That's good.
Hey, listen.
I thought you went to bed at 8.
Well, I normally do. I went to bed a little early last night. A, we were down by 2 at halftime.
Yeah.
And B...
That's enough to shut it off?
Well, no. It was for Monica. But B, it was also, 2 days full of snow closures and staying on top of the weather on the morning show, and so I gave myself a little bit of a window to go to bed early last night.
All right, we are joined by Derek Young from K-State Online. DY, did you get your money back for the flight you were able to take to Morgantown?
Yes, I have a travel credit. I don't know what the exact amount is. I'm assuming it's 100%, so it's not necessarily money back, more of a travel credit.
You were going to fly out of MHK?
Yeah, I was, and I had very strong doubts as to that flight happening. I think it actually did, but not until probably 12, 16 hours later, or maybe not. No, well, probably 6, 7 hours later. I think it took off around noon when it was supposed to be a 5:30 a.m. flight, just because the night before, because the plane that we used for that first flight to DFW comes in that night. The night before from DFW, and it couldn't even fly into Manhattan, so it diverted to Tulsa. So they were stuck. That plane was stuck in Tulsa until I think almost noon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got off to a little bit of a late start here, so I'm going to kind of speed things up a little bit, kind of skip over a few preliminary questions about the game. I mean, we all know Cats won, had a much better second half defensively, had a consistent night of scoring the basketball. I got to say, K-State I thought did a good job of taking advantage of what West Virginia was missing in that game yesterday, and that was Jesse Edwards. They did not have their starting five. They didn't really have anybody else that could truly fill that role downstairs. So you had Will McNair score 12, and David Gasson, he scores 17 points. He goes 7 of 8 from the field, but he's been playing really good defense. In this last stretch, how underrated has David Gasson been?
I said it on the 3 Mall show with Cole Manbeck this morning. You can make an argument, and perhaps even an easy one. I don't know how you guys feel about it, that David Gasson's kind of been the team MVP over the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks, because without his defensive versatility, his rebounding, his defensive performance just in general, he's one of the best defenders in the Big 12. He should be on the all Big 12 first-team defense this year, in my opinion, and he can guard just about anyone on the floor at any spot on the floor. Now you're starting to get a little offense from him. I think because they're using him better on that end of the floor. But he is just, what he is giving them is consistency, and they know exactly what they're going to get from him every single night, and it's the things that they need from him. I don't know that you can say that about another player on the roster in terms of that level of consistency, and you nailed it on the head. I mean, if you want to kind of put it down to one point of why Kansas State beat West Virginia, they were the better team on the interior. You mentioned 12 points from Will McNair, but he also had 9 rebounds, 23 or 17 points from David Gasson. He had 7 rebounds. Even Jarrell Colbert was one of the better players on the floor when he entered the game and played on the interior. I think he had 2 blocks and 4 rebounds.
I think for Will McNair, this last game, and I love Will McNair when he's playing well. He's one of my more favorite Wildcats to watch when he's playing well. He really can look good. He had a great catch, that one-handed catch to get that last, I think it was his last points of the game. For Will, he didn't have a block in the game. Ended a streak of 7 straight games with a block for Will McNair. David Gasson, in 3 of the last 4 games, has scored in double figures. The game he didn't was against UCF, but he still had 14 rebounds. Another really fun part about this recent run for K-State, they blow out a couple of teams that we consider will maybe struggle, or we think they're going to struggle a little bit, of course, in the Big 12 this year. In UCF and West Virginia, we'll see how West Virginia improves over the weeks before K-State sees them again. But Dorian Finister, 6 points in the last couple of games. He's been getting a lot more minutes. The last 3 games we saw Taj Manning against Chicago State play some pretty strong minutes. And Jarrell Colbert last night comes in I'm surprised there's only 5 minutes and 40 seconds. I swore he played longer than that, and he was really good. I thought in those 5 minutes and change with no points, but he had 4 rebounds, he had 2 blocks and an assist. That's been fun. And it's been cool to see Dorian grow as a player. But there's also a concern that Buddy Rich, R.J. Jones, we've barely seen them play recently. Day-Day Ames is playing. He's in the rotation, but he's not scoring the basketball. He's having a really rough time shooting the ball. So what outweighs the other, the encouragement of Finister, Manning, and Colbert, or the concern about Buddy Rich, Day-Day Ames, and R.J. Jones?
You know what? The way I see it is that it's taking steps forward. They're making strides in that capacity at this point. Just because, I think it was like 2 or 3 games ago where the only people to come off the bench for Kansas State were Day-Day Ames and Dorian Finister. You asked Jerome Tang, why is that the case, or why are we seeing more Dorian Finister at this point? And he lays out the things that he's getting from Dorian Finister that he's not getting from the other bench guys. And that's why they're not getting the minutes that they've been accustomed to or expecting to. But what I saw last night, and even in the first 2 games against UCF and West Virginia, is some guys starting to get that message. Because you mentioned Jarrell Colbert. He flashes against West Virginia. Taj Manning, a couple of games ago, flashed against Chicago State. Coach Tang also shared why Taj Manning got those minutes, because of his selflessness, being willing to go on the scout team for that particular week, just because he wanted to help the team any way he could. Well, last night, Jarrell Colbert has the 2 blocks, 4 rebounds in only 5 minutes. You could tell that as soon as he got on the floor, he wanted to deliver Coach Tang some of the stuff that he'd been searching for, just because he wants to be on the floor. R.J. Jones got minutes against West Virginia. And he made a couple wrong decisions, but I thought those wrong decisions were born out of him trying very, very hard, playing very, very hard. You could tell that he heeded the message from Coach Tang. He wanted to do anything he could to prove to the coaching staff that he belonged on the floor. So for me, I'm getting the impression and sensing that the rest of the bench is starting to hear Coach Tang and buy into what he's saying and doing what it takes to get on the floor and stay on the floor.
Did last night confirm for Tyler Perry that game in and game out, we just don't know exactly what Tyler Perry we're going to get?
I think it's fair to say at this point, but he does affect the game in a positive way and contributes to winning for Kansas State in more ways than one. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't just have to be a scorer or a three-point shooter. But being a scorer and a three-point shooter is the most significant way that he can help Kansas State. Here's for me, at the end of the day, a takeaway that I think is a powerful one that needs to be heeded, and it's two players. Tyler Perry and Arthur Kaluma never should turn down an open look from three. Those two are capable of shooting 40% from three every single night. Arthur Kaluma is almost a 40% three-point shooter right now. Whenever they get any daylight from the three-point line, they should be taking it.
One of the things that stands out to me in the discussion about Perry is how much of that is because you don't have Quez Glover as a running mate for him in the backcourt right now.
I would agree because he has to play on the ball more, but I just want him to take the shots that he does get open. That would be my thing. But he is trying to be so selfless, so unselfish, because he wants to be that point guard for this team. And I think he can accomplish both of those things. I think he can do that, but also take the open looks he's getting.
Speaking with Derek Young from K-State Online, a couple things I just want to mention here real quick. You mentioned Arthur Kaluma there, DY. He finished with 17 points, made up for the lack of three-point hits for Tyler Perry. He was 4 of 6 from 3. And I think I saw from Tyler Perry that really the last two games, it was obvious against UCF, just the shots were falling. He was more aggressive with his shot. He was willing to take a little bit more of a contested three to see if he can knock it out. He can knock those shots down. He just wasn't hitting the shots against West Virginia. But, man, is he consistent with assists. 5 more assists against West Virginia. So that part of his game surely has been consistent. So next 3 here, DY, is at Texas Tech, Baylor, and Oklahoma State. Obviously, these next 2 games are going to be more of a challenge. But how doable is it for K-State to finish this first 5 games of Big 12 play 4-1?
I think it's pretty significant, more so because of what it means. And you just got to look at it from a resume standpoint too, right? So, look, one of those 3 games is home against Oklahoma State. You lose that, that's a bad loss. That I might as well be a quad 3 loss at this point. It might be if you were to lose that. So you have to beat Oklahoma State at home. But I just said, man, you could split these next 2 games. It doesn't matter which one you win, in my opinion. At Texas Tech, home against Baylor, they're both going to be quad 1 wins anyway. Then you're sitting there, if you take care of business at home against Oklahoma State, you're 4-1 in the Big 12. Yeah, you're doing it because you're taking advantage of a weaker part of your schedule, but that just lessens the margin for error, right? It puts you in the conversation of the best teams in the Big 12. And even if it's a little bit of fool's gold, and it might be if that is the case, it's just what that means inside the locker room, because once you start to feel better about yourself, you get more confident, you play better, and then even if it came about from being fortunate, now you're ready to compete against some of the best night in and night out because you're feeling better about yourself because you were able to take advantage and prove to yourself that you're a team that can contend atop the Big 12.
We'll take our first break. DY will join us when we come back. We'll jump into some recruiting talk after these words on the game. Well, it took 10 minutes. Chris Kleiman's already up for the Alabama job.
God, I hope not.
I'm reporting it.
It's you.
Yeah.
You're the one out there
source.
reporting the information. Yeah.
I got the source, guys.
We're back on the game. Mitch Fortner, Troy Coverdale, David G., and Travion Berkland. I'm leaving right before the end of the first hour to head to Bramlage Coliseum. Also planning to have the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, here on in a few moments as well. Back with Derek Young from K-State Online. We're going to squeeze in some recruiting questions before I let you go here, DY. Let's start on the football side of things. Obviously, you needed out of the portal is a wide receiver, maybe a couple of them. Penn State 6-foot wide receiver Dante Cephas, I think is how you say his last name. Had over 200 yards, a couple of touchdowns for Penn State this year. A couple of years ago in 21 for Kent State, he had over 1,200 yards receiving. I know he was in town not too long ago. Is there anything we should know about this recruitment? Does K-State have a good shot at landing him?
Yeah, that's probably the thing to know, that this is a serious recruitment. And as of now, Cephas hasn't even visited anywhere else, and I'm not sure there's plans for him to. Although you guys alluded to this Alabama coaching vacancy thing with Nick Saban, sounds like he's retiring.
Right.
If that happens, a whole bunch of not just coaching dominoes, but recruiting dominoes happen too. I doubt it ultimately comes down to and affects the Dante Cephas thing. But that's something to just take into consideration with everything that we're probably about to say, because college football, a whole lot of chaos is about to ensue. But at this point, according to what I have learned, I would be shocked if Kansas State didn't land the Penn State wide receiver transfer.
Where is K-State right now in trying to find another defensive lineman or maybe even an offensive lineman? Has there been much traction there lately in trying to find those positions in the portal?
Yeah, they already got Easton Kilty on the offensive line. I think they'd like another. They've already added, a junior college transfer and an Austin P transfer along the defensive line in Travis Bates. I think they need more defensive line help, but we just haven't seen a whole lot surface at this point. Is it, the pool of talent is limited, or perhaps K-State doesn't agree that they need another defensive lineman? That's always the potential conclusion to take as well. But for all intents and purposes, it's pretty quiet on that front.
On the basketball side, I believe it was On 3 that first reported this, and that is 2025 point guard recruit. He's a 4-star kid out of the state of Texas in King Grace, that he'll be taking an unofficial visit, which will be the day of the Oklahoma State home game, which is in 10 days, on the 20th in January. Anything significant about this recruitment?
I think it's just starting, really. So I think the legs are just starting to turn on that one. But obviously, this is a sign that Kansas State is a legitimate player for his services. Probably more of a combo guard, similar to David Castillo. And in that light, just look at his rankings in the 2025 class. Very similar to where David Castillo is positioned in the 2024 class. Of course, David Castillo, a K-State signee out of Sunrise right now, started his basketball career at Bartlesville, Oklahoma. So if you're wanting kind of a ranking neighborhood of where this guy is positioned and where he plays, it's very similar to the kind of player that Kansas State landed a year ago in David Castillo.
All right, DY, before we let you go, the last question is the Kansas Jayhawks play at UCF tonight. KU, now the front runner to be the next week's number 1 team in the country. Houston loses last night at Iowa State, no longer an undefeated team left in Division I college basketball. Purdue, the number 1 team, loses at Nebraska.
Of all places.
Last night.
Hey, the Huskers got something going in Lincoln this year.
It makes that home blowout second half at the hands of Nebraska not look so bad, but it still really sucks. Don't get me wrong there. That still really sucks. Do you give UCF a shot at beating KU tonight?
I don't, but the line makes me think it's going to be closer than we're all expecting. It's only a 6.5. KU's a 6.5 point favorite.
Yep.
Really? I hadn't even looked. That's how overwhelming I thought it would be.
It sounds like a sucker line because we all see that. We'd all take KU minus 6.5 and feel really, really good about it. And I guarantee you that's what everyone's thinking. And I bet 95% of the bets are that. But typically when that happens, Vegas gets everybody.
You have one of the better offensive rebounding teams in UCF against the worst offensive rebounding team in the Big 12 against Kansas tonight. That tips off at 6 o'clock, ESPN Plus game. DY, appreciate it. Thank you for your time. We'll talk again next week.
As always.
Derek Young from K-Center Line, also the 3 Mob Podcast, which you can find that surely wherever you get your podcasts. And also, I watch it on YouTube. I like watching the YouTube podcasts. Plus, of course, the co-host in Power Cat Game Day.
Yeah. You like supporting your buds. That's cool.
I check out everybody's work.
Mm-hmm. It's really nice. Troy, you got anything on the side? Any podcasts or YouTube?
No. I just kind of, put my ugly mug on
Reels
in the morning at this point.
Oh, yeah, the Facebook stuff.
Yeah, it's been good.
Get yelled at that people wake up to that in the morning, and it's like, sorry, guys.
Yeah, go ahead and give us
I am what I am.
Give us your Facebook Reels preview for tomorrow's morning show right now. Can you give us a preview of the preview reel?
Yeah, you know what? Given that it is the story of the week, Mother Nature's coming at us with a very crisp stretch of oof. Man, it's just going to be nasty.
If you want more of that, friend Troy Coverdale on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, it is playoff time in the NFL. Chiefs and Dolphins. Saturday at 7:15 from Arrowhead Stadium. We'll preview that matchup with the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, next. At a frigid Arrowhead Stadium on Saturday night, wild card round, Kansas City Chiefs, Miami Dolphins meeting up in the NFL playoffs 2024. We're now joined by the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, that is Mitch Holthus. Mitch, before we take a look at the Dolphins for the second time, just a quick thought on the Week 18 victory over the Chargers 13-12, where, of course, there's a number of starters sitting out like a Patrick Mahomes. They gave some other guys an opportunity to play a little bit more. Encouraged by the performance of a guy we haven't talked about in a while, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, with those 3 tackles and 2 TFLs.
Absolutely. It was there's more value to that game than fans want to give it. Just because, Mahomes and Kelsey aren't playing, I'm not going to pay attention. And truthfully, there was a lot that could be impacted even as soon as this week from that game. And Felix, his play, especially on the attempted jet sweep that they had where he stayed home and got a tackle for loss for 5 yards, was his biggest play other than his half sack so far in his rookie year. Also, don't overlook, Echo Boydo, who has played a lot on special teams and also got some scrimmage downs as a dime back in that game. And those 2 guys, most notably Boydo, could have more of an effect on Saturday night because he has won Dave Tobe over in his role as a potential and very effective gunner on punt coverage.
The offense has obviously had its struggles with the wide receivers other than Rashee Rice. I think maybe the biggest storyline other than that for the offense has been the Travis Kelce-Taylor Swift relationship. It's been a fantastic year, in my opinion, for the Chiefs defense. Second best defense in the NFL in scoring. And I was looking at the numbers earlier today. I was going to ask the boys this question a little later on. In the regular season, who was your defensive MVP? Do you go straight to Chris Jones, or is there somebody else you're considering?
It'd be hard to go past L'Jarius Sneed, where he allowed no touchdowns and only 1 long pass play against him all season. And he played against, he had a gauntlet of wide receivers that he was going against. Think about it. Justin Jefferson and Keenan Allen and Devontae Adams, and you just go up and down the line, and Tyreek Hill in the game in Germany. And he is just turned into an elite corner. Trent McDuffie would not be far behind, and then I'd have Chris Jones in there. But then there's other guys that George Karlaftis would be a high honorable mention to answer this question, because he's had a spectacular year. Overall, this is a defense that's good at all 3 levels and good at both corner and safety, and they can defend the run and the pass. You look at not allowing 20 points as much as they have this season. They only allowed 120 points in the second halves of games this season. That led the NFL by far. And it's just easy to overlook that sometimes.
Playoffs start, of course, this weekend, as I said earlier. Chiefs and Dolphins meeting for the second time. First round was in Germany, and the Chiefs won that game 21-14. Certainly a difference in halves there. This could be a very cold game. What do you think the reaction, though, of the Chiefs fans will be when Tyreek Hill emerges from that tunnel?
Mixed. There'll be some that'll think, gosh, you know what? He helped us win Super Bowl 54, and he was spectacular 2016 to 2021, and, arguably the top receiver in Chiefs history, if not for Otis Taylor. So there'll be some of that. But there'll also be, he didn't handle this great. He was taking shots at Mahomes so that people would get some attention to his podcast. And this is a franchise that saved Tyreek twice. His career wouldn't even have started without the Chiefs. And then don't forget draft night of 2019 when it became very gnarly of the accusations made against him. It's like the NFL has forgotten about all that. And the Chiefs were very, very involved in trying to get to the truth of the matter and supporting Tyreek, where very different than Oklahoma State, when there was similar allegations and even charges brought, and he had to make a plea bargain. In fact, we were criticized for drafting him in 2016, but Oklahoma State said, "So that's it, no tolerance, you're out of here." And when the Chiefs said, "Okay, we're going to get to the bottom of this, try to help you, try to get the truth on two different instances," and then he kind of disses the team when he goes to Miami. A little bit of, I think, just get attention to his podcast and his marketing efforts, and that was disappointing. I mean, I'll hug him when we have a Super Bowl reunion, but there'll be a side of me that'll have to count to 10 and go, why were you dissing Pat? We targeted the guy a lot, and there was just some reaction from him that I hope was just his agent saying, "Hey, say something outrageous," which doesn't take a lot of encouragement for Tyreek to do that, and then do that, and then we'll get a lot of attention to our website and to our podcast.
Speaking with the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, as I mentioned, Chiefs won the first meeting against the Dolphins 21-14. And this is, of course, I asked the last question, assuming I would expect Tyreek Hill to play, even though he got banged up in that previous game against the Bills. I mean, Dolphins, just like a lot of the other teams, are very banged up. They are, especially on the defensive side, I think they're missing three different defensive ends. Guys are out in the secondary. So with those guys banged up, but we know that the Dolphins can be a dangerous team, of course. So what's your thoughts on the Dolphins heading into this game?
Well, Mitch, every thought that we have, and I can give you just gobs of data, it's really predicated on the weather in this game. I mean, this will be, I think, when it's all going here, the coldest postseason game in Kansas City Chiefs history. And one of the coldest in NFL history. You're talking 11 degrees at kickoff with wind chills at -17. Okay, that affects the game. I don't know how cold it was in the Iowa State game, but think about that game. Now, it's going to be way colder than that, and there will still be, be snow on the ground, but I don't think it'll be like that but think about that game. That game became about tackling. And K-State couldn't tackle that Abu Sama guy, whatever it was, that ran for 55,000 yards. Okay, so think about the elements in that game. Didn't the elements kind of dictate almost everything in that game? That's the way this is going to be. Now, that being said, one of the characteristics of the Dolphins is their ability to quick strike. They are the quickest, strikingest team in the NFL. Hear me on this one. They have 108 points off quick strike drives, which is defined as scoring plays of 4 snaps or less. They have 108 points off quick strike drives. The next closest team is San Francisco with 77. This Miami team loves to play downhill, and they try to get ahead of you and try to knock you out early with some big plays, and the Chiefs did exactly the opposite against them in Germany, getting up 21-0. Here's another stat. The Dolphins have led at halftime 12 of the 17 games this year. They're 11-1 in those games. The only loss was last week to Buffalo. They're 0-5 when they trail at half. You get ahead of them and make them play the way the Chiefs made them play in Germany, you beat them. They hate it. But They want to get an RPO, quick play, touchdown to Tyreek or Waddle. And where they're most dangerous is their running game because they're so explosive in it. The most explosive run team in the NFL. We did not see Devon Achane in Germany, and he might be the fastest guy in the league right now. He was 4.32 in the combine this past year, and he was the fastest guy in the combine. And so either as a receiver or as a runner, he's very dangerous. But there's no team in the league that gets more chunk runs, and I mean 30, 40, 50-yard runs from Mostert or Achane like the Dolphins.
Does your booth have its own thermostat? Do you get to say how warm or cold it is in the booth?
No. It's, Kansas City has got a great tradition of architecture, but they didn't do so great in this booth, or that whole ninth level, 14 stories above the field. But it'll be warm and toasty. It's a first world problem, so I'm not going to, but I do a field pass pregame show on the field, about 2 hours before the game, and that will be a little frosty. But we're talking minus, it could be minus 20 wind chill in the second half.
You mean you're not pulling the Larry Zimmer, Dave Logan task of having the windows open for the broadcast when it's single digits?
Oh, my man, I've done many games like that. So you can't, if I sat down and wrote you saw the video out with me reading the book.
Yes.
Right, I could have another episode of me reading the book, cold weather football games and broadcasting thereof. So let's don't think Uncle Mitchie skipped that part of the deal.
No, I'm fully aware. I just had to chuckle about it.
I think it's great.
I got a chance to go. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, open the windows in the booth. Like our windows don't open, never have. And that's problematic with
sure
sound that we have to drink. Oh yeah.
I got a chance to go to the 93 AFC. I think 93 and 94 AFC wild card. It was the Chiefs and Steelers, and that was a
how
cool
old were you, dude?
I think I was in third grade, and I got the opportunity to go. And I remember Nick Lowry kicked the game winner. But people were giving Joe Montana a hard time because the first half he was wearing gloves and he was off. He couldn't hit anybody. And they kept yelling, "Take the gloves off, Joe!" He comes out in the second half, no gloves on. What do you know? Chiefs come back and win. Do you think if Pat Mahomes starts out slow with gloves, do we see no glove Pat Mahomes second half?
I trust Pat Mahomes if he wore catcher's mitt. So let me give you some stats here that might just enlighten your show. First of all, the Dolphins on the road in the playoffs in the last 50 years. Okay, this is going back to Vince Gibson era. And honestly, this is their first visit in Kansas City since the 1971 longest game ever played. But the Dolphins are 1-11 on the road in the playoffs in the last 50 years. Their only win was at Seattle in the wild card in 2000. Under 40 degrees, the Dolphins have lost 10 straight games. You've probably seen that. Mm-hmm. Tua is 0-3 in games under 40 degrees. The aforementioned Patrick Mahomes, wearing catcher's mitt on both hands, is 20-6 in such games, and in the playoffs is 9-1 in temperatures under 40 degrees. There's some East Texas toughness to the man. I'm going to trust him and let him rip. And I'm telling you, if he wants to wear oven mitts, fine, buddy, go get him. Because I've seen him do it before. Not wear oven mitts, but win games like this.
Well, the Peacock app has paid a ton of money for the exclusive rights television-wise for this game. But if you want to listen to it for free, listen to Mitch Holthus here on K-Man. 7:15 kick. Pregame starts at 6 here on K-Man. Mitch, as always, we appreciate your time, and hopefully we're talking about a Chiefs win next week.
We just got the ratings. We're the highest-rated broadcast in the National Football League. Man, 25-54 is 60 share, which is ridiculous. It will be our largest network audience in history on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And playoffs are big anyway, even if they're on television. But the fact that it's on Peacock, and people are like, what do I get on Peacock if I buy it other than, why don't I get reruns of Park and Rec? I
The
get
Office.
The Office, WW. No, not going to do it. Because people will do it to buy the game at $6.95 or whatever it is, and then they'll forget about it, and they get charged for 4 more months. Hey, did you cancel Peacock? Oh, crap. And so they're like, no, I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. And so if it's Amazon Prime or Paramount or or Netflix, you get the quarterback series. I don't want to watch Parks and Rec, and binge on it. So I'm not going to buy Peacock either. I think this is an attempt of NBC to try to make Peacock viable, where I think they're a little bit desperate. So anyway,
well, Mitch, if you know me, a combo of Chiefs and then the Royal Rumble in a couple of weeks isn't a bad deal at all.
Oh, sign me up, and I'll charge you the $6.25.
Free radio remains unbeaten.
Yes, it does, and we'll try to bring the best free radio broadcast possible on Saturday night.
Mitch, thank you for your time. We'll talk again soon.
See you, boys.
It's Mitch Holthus voiced the Chiefs here on The Game. Let's take a break here on The Game.
Closing in on the top of the hour, Mitch mentioned that we'll have the Chiefs game for you Saturday night. So Saturday breaks down with K-State women's basketball as they play host to Texas, followed by the men visiting Texas Tech, followed by Chiefs football.
Wow.
Then turn around and on Sunday, a triple header of NFL playoff action.
Wow. So just keep K-Man on all weekend long is what you're saying.
Plus, we'll have your best weather updates, all of the details that you'll need to know on the cold snap that's passing through the area. Yeah.
What else do you need?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. So we've got you covered this weekend, whether it's the weather, whether it's the news, whether it's the sports. I mean, just like any other day. But coming up, we've got about a half an hour of us just bantering because Mitch is out to watch the Cats in action tonight out at Bramlage. We'll set the scene a little bit for that matchup between the K-State women and Oklahoma as we continue into the 5 o'clock hour on The Game.